Well, hello once again. It's time to read chapter 15 of The Tiger Rising. So if you'll open with me to page 54 in your book, then we can go through this together. Chapter 15. By the time they made it back to the motel parking lot, it was dark outside, and they were both laughing so hard that they could barely walk. "Rob?" said his father. He was standing at the door to their room. The blue-gray light from inside seeped out around him. "Yes, sir," said Rob. He dropped Sistine's hand. He stood up straight. "Where you been?" "Out in the woods." "Did you finish up all them jobs I told you to do?" "Yes, sir," said Rob. "Who you got with you?" his father said, squinting into the darkness. Sistine drew herself up tall. "This is Sistine," said Rob. "Uh-huh," said his father, still squinting. "You live around here?" he asked. "For now," said Sistine. "Your parents know you're out here?" "I was going to call my mother," said Sistine. "There's a payphone down in the laundry room," said Rob's father. "In the laundry room?" Sistine repeated, her voice full of disbelief. She put her hands on her hips. "We don't got a phone in the room," Rob said to her softly. "Good grief," said Sistine. "Well, can I have some change at least?" Rob's father reached into his pants pocket and pulled out a handful of coins. He balanced the money in the palm of his hand as if he was preparing to do a magic trick, and Rob stepped forward and took the coins from him and handed them to Sistine. "You want me to go with you?" he asked her. "No," she said. "I'll find it. Thank you very much." "Rob," his father said as Sistine marched away, swinging her arms, "what's that girl doing in your clothes?" "She had on a dress," Rob said. "It was too pretty to wear out in the woods." "Come on in here," his father commanded. "Let's get that medicine on your legs." Let's pause here for just a moment. So, a couple of things to think about. I know that it's pretty common when we're reading this book for students to think that Rob's dad is mean. And they think, well, he slapped Rob at Rob's mother's funeral, which was his dad's wife, of course, right? So he must be bad. He must be mean. And again, as I've said before, I don't condone that. I'm not saying that it's right to smack or hit somebody. But is his father really all that bad? I mean, here Rob stayed out late, and we know his father must have been worried, right? Now, how do we know that? Infer here with me. Well, I think we know that because his father is standing in the door to their room. He wasn't just inside, taking a nap or watching TV. He may have gone out and walked around and looked for him, but he's standing there and he's watching, and Rob comes up, Rob. And he asks Rob a few questions. Does he yell at Rob? No. In fact, he's like, "Come on up here. Let's get the medicine on your legs." And he's going to help Rob by putting medicine on his legs. So that's one thing to think about in this. Another thing to think about is we know, and I'm sure you've inferred this already, but Rob and his dad are very poor. They really don't have much money. Rob's dad is working as a maintenance man at Beauchamp's, or Beauchamp, however you want to pronounce it. I usually pronounce it Beauchamp, at his hotel, the Kentucky Star, and they don't have a lot. Well, do they have cell phones? No, they don't. In fact, they don't even have a phone at all in their hotel room. So when Sistine needs to make a phone call, she has to go to the laundry room where there's a payphone. And if you're not familiar with payphones, you have to put coins in order to be able to dial out. Okay, so it's like a telephone, but you have to put coins in. And that's why Sistine's like, well, can I have some change? So Sistine is just absolutely incredulous. I mean, she just can't hardly believe this. She's like, in the laundry room? You mean you don't have a phone? Well, can I have some change at least? She doesn't understand. I mean, how is it possible for people not to have a phone? Well, it is. Let's go on. And as we go on, this very next paragraph, I want you to pay close attention to the way in which Kate DiCamillo, our author, describes Rob and his dad's motel room. Okay, not just what it looks like, but what it feels like to Rob. Here we go. So remember, Rob's dad had just said, come on in and let's get that medicine on your legs. Yes, sir, said Rob. He walked toward the room slowly. His happiness had evaporated. His legs itched, and the motel room, he knew, would be as dark as a cave, lit only by the gray light of the TV. So isn't that a vivid description? I mean, just walking toward the room makes his happiness just leave, just evaporate. And his legs start itching. And it's as dark as a cave, lit only by the gray light of the TV. I can make a mental movie, and I'm sure you can visualize it as well. When his mother was alive, the world had seemed full of light. The Christmas before she died, she had strung the outside of their house in Jacksonville with hundreds of white lights. Every time the house lit up like a every night, the house lit up like a constellation, and they were all inside it together, the three of them, and they were happy. Rob remembered, and as he remembered, he stepped into the motel room. He shook his head and scolded himself for opening his suitcase. Just thinking about all the things that were gone now seemed to make the darkness darker. So there for a moment, just for a moment, Rob had started to think about his mother and had a memory of how she had strung Christmas lights and how they were happy as a family. And then he's like, oh, no, don't do that. He's kind of mad at himself because he let his guard down. He opened his little metaphorical suitcase, didn't he? Well, we'll read on tomorrow.